The Right2Know campaign rejects the government's austerity budget set to be delivered today. It's demanding taxation and spending that promote the people's right to know. The organization says previous administrations have chosen to undertax wealthy individuals and corporations while cutting spending on basic services and community infrastructure. This has exacerbated inequality, according to Right2Know. Well, to discuss their view and their expectations, I'm joined now by Mark Weinberg, National Coordinator at the Right2Know campaign. Mark, good morning, and thank you very much for your time. You want a redistributive budget, not an austerity one. Do you think that is likely, considering all kinds of challenges that government is facing today amid the coronavirus pandemic?
Yeah, morning, Dan. We were saying that for the last 25 years, the South African government has budgeted to create an investor-friendly environment where investment will drive growth and growth will sustain people and improve our lives. It hasn't been happening. It's a policy that has failed, and we think it's time to try the alternative, which is increasingly popular in other countries around the world: more taxation and more public spending to stimulate the economy. Will it happen? No. It's clear that the politicians in power today are more intent on serving corporate interests than serving the people. Should it happen? Absolutely. We think it's the only future for the democracy. The contradictions and tensions of our society can't continue indefinitely.
Now, from a Right2Know perspective, Right2Know campaign perspective, you are asking for a people's budget, which you say is unlikely to happen. But what would a people's budget look like in today's world, in your view? What would those things that would indicate a move towards a people's budget if Tito Mboweni were to do so this afternoon?
Well, from a Right2Know perspective, we're saying we have to invest in the democracy, invest in realizing the promise of the Constitution. So that means freedom of expression and access to information. We need a properly funded public broadcaster, not an SABC that's left to survive on advertising. We need a proper investment in community radio, who are also and have been for decades in survival mode. We need the government to invest in the rollout of Wi-Fi and broadband so everyone can have access to high-speed internet without being exploited by the cell phone companies. So these are a number of areas where we think government should be investing in the people. It would unlock an economic energy from below that would stimulate the economy and dynamize the democracy.
And you've also made comments around the information regulator in the past. Would you want to see that office being fully funded?
Yes, the information regulator is a relatively new institution with the task of protecting our privacy. And we've seen how that's becoming an increasingly vital issue, and they've been completely starved of funds by the Department of Justice. Of course, there are a number of institutions vital to democracy: the courts, the CCMA, the prosecutors, that all need adequate resources in order to realize the promise of the Constitution, a promise where...
Yeah, finally, before I let you go, let's go back to where we started as well. You've mentioned that the previous governments for over 20 years have undertaxed the wealthy and corporations. Would you expect this afternoon to be an increase in taxes?
Well, you see, the argument is we can't afford to do any better than we're doing, and that is not true. South African corporations are sitting on billions of rands in their savings accounts, in banks. That's money they're not investing in production, and that money should be taxed. We've got the highest inequality in the world. We can increase tax on high net worth individuals. We also, as Right to Know, are calling for a special corporate tax on Facebook, Google, Amazon. These are taxes that are being introduced elsewhere in the world. So the argument that we have no funds and can't afford to meet people's basic needs is something we would call on the media to really interrogate very closely, because those claims made by the Minister of Finance and others just don't stand up to scrutiny.
Thank you very much, Mark Weinberg, speaking on behalf of the Right to Know campaign.